Oh, I don't know.
Yes, I do.
I'm kind of all fresh out of telling. I used up all my expletives coming up the road, so we're good there, right? This is a G-rated deal. I'm just, I'm so delighted to be here. It's been a long time, and I'm delighted anybody bothered to come out in this train wreck of a weather situation we have out here. Like I told some folks, I left at 8 a.m. this morning. It should take me 1 hour, so you saw when I got here. The first time I ever did a demo here was weaseled into doing it by a certain somebody. I think I painted a bird. I think that was my first demo here, and you guys got that.
Mm-hmm.
That was
and you can't buy it. No.
And I was nervous as a cat. And I can tell you I don't get nervous at these anymore. There's too many things going on, and these don't make me nervous anymore. I'm just glad to be here among friends. It's awesome. And it feels good to be back. I would be back more often, but I just simply can't. I've got too many things going on. So I wanted to kind of tag onto a couple of the dates and things that are going on so that if you're interested, then you can lock in now. I'm doing the plein air live for Eric. My stint is on the 7th. Yeah, Eric Rhodes. My stint is on the morning of the 7th. I'll be first. I think I'm the first one because I had to get a spot because at that time I'm in the middle of the Borrego Springs Invitational again this is the 4th year in that. So anyway, I got to take time out from the event and sit in front of the computer and answer questions in a live chat. But I did an hour-long demo, however much they don't leave on the cutting room floor. I did an hour-long demo down at Bosque del Apache, so it's pretty cool. I'm going to be the juror, judge, and presenter for the Austin Pastel Society in March. Then, like she said, in Pastel Society of Colorado, that was 20 seats, and it's wait list only now. That one's sold out. IAPS is sold out. It was 20 seats, and it's wait-listed now. Bluebird, I know from last I understand I have 5 seats left of 15. So that's not till September. That's September 4th through the 7th. So if you want a spot on that, I'd suggest grabbing it pretty quick. And I may be teaching a studio workshop at Ghost Ranch in November, the 2nd through the 8th. I won't be posting that until I absolutely know that that's going to fly. So that's kind of what's going on with me in the go sphere. Pastels, demo, that's what I'm doing. You know how when you're just white-knuckled and in the white and there's nothing but white and, it's just kind of a little bit rambling. So what I'm choosing to do, before I did that bird, the reason I even brought that up is I bet I painted 4 of those at home before I came here and painted one just to be sure I didn't completely royally screw up, right? And so today I'm doing a painting for you that I haven't rehearsed. It's completely unscripted. That's how I do best. But it's completely unscripted, and I hear people, and my students are always saying, how do you start? Well, where do you go from there? Or how do you decide your lights and darks? And these kinds of things. So I thought I'm going to start it from the very scratch and try to get through as much of it as I can in this compressed period of time. I project pretty well. If I'm talking to you looking that way and you can't hear me, just speak up, and I'll start turning around to talk. I'll try to speak it up, though. Okay? Just for the sake of time and trying to get on down the road with this. You can't even see it on this, I don't think. Right. I have, there's a little bit of a sketch there, just minimal. And there's 2, there, stripes, there. But I've got 2 horizontal and 2 vertical lines. I start out with that every single time. I break my canvas or paper down into thirds going each direction. That's how I decide on a composition. I don't decide on a composition, then do that. I do that as I'm deciding on a composition because I could go all day on Fibonacci sequence and golden mean and all these other things. And I did science. I've done that already. And I find that just about anything that I do, if you want to lay any of those other more sophisticated ways down on top of this, it's going to play out about the same, because really what it's giving you is an idea of where to place the importance of your subject matter, okay? So on this paper are 2 vertical and 2 horizontal lines, and then there is a very, very light sketch of where things are, so I didn't have to waste your time screwing around with that. As tiny as the audience is today, if you guys want to come up, anytime you want to come up and have a look-see, please do. So, good to have my reference, I guess. So the first thing that can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing that I would like to do whenever I find something I love, there's something that strikes me about the image, the view, or whatever it is that I see that makes me stop and take that picture. It's my why. So my why of this one is, I so love the shadow in these odd-shaped buildings that there's so many of in New Mexico and the Outback. And so I wanted to capture this little scene of this old, maybe it's a house, maybe it's just like a well house with a room. I don't even know what it is, but it's charming and I want to paint it. So I'm
Natasha,
going to
can
paint
you
it.
just hold up your thing so we can see what you're referencing?
Mm-hmm. So it's how the light hits it. It's how the shadow drops down on it. That's what I love about it. Okay? So in order to paint that thing that I love, that does not mean that I have to be a slave to a color palette. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means that whenever I'm done, the thing you're really going to notice is that great shape of this building. What are you laughing about? See, it's just how I paint. That's the problem. What do you want me to do, Nicholas?
I can move the camera over.
I'm right-handed, so, it's like, what if you watch it over this shoulder? I'll be stepping in front of it occasionally.
Okay,
But,
this might work.
I was a pain in the butt the minute I hit the road this morning. Yeah, because mostly I'll be reaching in front of it, but I'll be back out of it to paint.
Okay.
I'll try to remember to be out of it to paint. So if you guys say, hey, move over, I will. So, I'm first kind of getting the idea of this line. Kind of already know this is roughly going to be my shadow color. Am I still all right? Can you guys still see?
Yeah.
Great. So I like to establish a few of the important parts of my why first, because I don't want to lose track of what I want to draw attention to. So what that means for me whenever I'm painting is I'm trying to be sure that, and I am so shaky from that drive, I apologize. That's all right. It'll be an impressionistic painting. Yeah, because I like to be sure whatever it is that I'm doing isn't going to be competing with my why. So once I establish like these shadow colors, I'm not going to use them a lot elsewhere because I want you to look at this, right? And I love myself a little creative license with color, right? This light's off. Some of the places where the light's hitting the most. And please do ask questions. I'm completely up for that.
What pastels are you using to block it in?
Like brand?
Yeah.
I think the two I've used so far is Terry Ludwig. I have a student or two in this classroom, and what I'm always talking to them about is using a light hand, because that's what gets you in trouble before anything else does, is you lay down too much. So I don't usually recommend starting with the Terry Ludwigs because they're so soft, So if you've got a heavy hand, that's a kind of a dangerous place to start. But when you do it a lot, you kind of know, yeah, that's the color I'm going to settle on, so I'm all right for that to lay down there. Forgot to bring my ever-popular box of grits to drop these pastels in as I'm using them. Come on, somebody talk. Say something. Quiet crowd. You were really hoping you get to go home, and I showed up.
We're waiting for the snow to melt.
Right. Just nap away. I'll let you know when I'm done.
What kind of paper are you on?
I am on Pastel Premier. Right now, it's my very favorite number 1.
Natasha, do you always start with a mid-tone paper like that?
I do. I certainly do. And, I do that with my oils as well. Because, that way, if I was starting with white paper, I would be hard put to see where my lights are and what shade, what chroma I wanted the lights. So if I start with the mid-tone, both things are showing up and I know where I'm going and I can work toward the middle. So I find it to be very beneficial to do that. This is a Finch shadow, in case you can't tell what the heck it is I'm doing over here. And I like to use my pastels like a paintbrush, so like the breadth of a paintbrush. That's how I like to paint. I like to see the marks. I like to see the you like to use the size and the side of pastels to formulate what I'm doing, because if I'm trying to point down, a lot of artists, when they're trying to get started, they push down with the edge. That's when you deposit way more than you need. You get too much down there, and that becomes a problem. As you're trying to paint it, it's hard to get rid of the strokes. So, if you're making a bunch of marks all around and you want to smooth something, it's hard to get once you have all those marks sort of embedded in there. And I don't know who does or doesn't know or even cares, but I had the distinct honor of being asked to put together a set of 60 Terry Ludwig pastels. And this is them. These are those. So they're really, really beautiful. It's called Natasha Isenhour Essential Alchemy is what I called it. Alchemy because that's what we do. We are alchemists. And I like to give a nod to the science that I did for so many years. Because, you know, you never quit being whoever you were before you picked up paint. And I think in any way that you can figure out how to tie in that person with the person that paints is all the better, because otherwise you're spending a lot of effort trying to tamp down and overwhelm that person that you were. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you can decide, well, you know, I have no regrets in the things that I've chosen to do and the order I've chosen to do them in. If I'm going to honor it, then I can honor it in this way. I can start understanding pastels and the composition of them, what makes them do what they do, understand what they even look like under a microscope, those kinds of things. And I find that to be really great because I feel like I bring my geologist in with everything I paint. Bored yet? So I get brownie points, you know, for working under this lousy light, right? So I saw an interesting thing on wherever, Facebook or Instagram or something. I don't usually chime in on these things because I just don't.
Are you telling us something? Or
Yes,
just
yeah, I'll
wondering?
speak up. See, that's what you got to do. Good. So on Facebook, once upon a time, this past week, I saw this post. I thought it was ever so interesting because it asked, what is it? And some of you may have seen it. Is anybody friends with Chuck Marshall? Chuck Marshall? So on Facebook, there was a question, what is more important, result or process? Chime in, and then I'll tell you what I think.
Process.
Why? But
Because it's the answer is yes.
that's more important than result, then. Is that unanimous?
No.
I think so.
I think the answer is yes.
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 Which is more important, yes.
So I found a great analogy, or at least I think it is anyway. You know, I think about letters that we used to write to our whoever when we were younger. And, you put love, Natasha at the end. Oops, and P.S. No. Maybe even P.S.S. Remember that? No. And then you give that letter and you go, man, I wish I'd said, right? So I think what I concluded from that is that it's all process. It's still process even when you finish. It's not really ever a result because you're always growing from it. How many paintings have you looked at down the road you've gone, ooh, and because there was more to say or you have more to say now. So I don't believe that they're mutually exclusive, and result now has become a word I'm not sure I even agree with, that there's a result. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing to ponder.
Well, the process itself is what keeps you going from one pastel color to the next. And the process continues when a viewer sees your work, because they might not see what you thought it should be. But for better or for worse, the person receiving the work through the process of seeing then interprets it their own way.
Now see, somebody's paying attention. Yeah, because, the way I look at it, it's like, okay, so first of all, you have to tell me if you're asking about the result or process for the person that's viewing it. Also, there's the person viewing it, the person that painted it, the curator that put it on the wall, the framer that helped you make a decision on frames. There's all these different eyes on it, and, process continues. It certainly does continue. I'm not sure that ever ends. I mean, even down to somebody that buys it to match their couch, right? That's not our favorite thing yet. That's a customer. That's a client, right? So the result is you got money for your painting. That result I really like. Anyway, I just thought that was worth thinking about, putting a little more thought into that. Because people ask you all kinds of questions, and it's nice to have thought about these things. So then I go back in and I hunt down some of my darkest darks and be sure I have not lost track of them on my white, because I want to be sure, again, that this is going to hold up to everything else that I'm painting here.
In some of your archetypal paintings, do you ever use a straight edge? Some of your lines are very straight.
I'll draft them out. Is that Stan? Hey, how are you? Good to see you. Yeah, I do. I do to get them drawn out, and then I try to drop it, And whatever it is that I'm going to put down with that straight edge, I want to be sure that I'm not overdrawing. It's like I have to keep reminding myself, now where are you going to stop here? Because you're not drawing this, you're going to paint it. You know what I mean? So I have to really keep a tight rope on myself not to overdraw. And editing's a big thing too, because there is just an awful lot in this painting or photo. There's just an awful lot in it, and I don't want to put all this stuff that's in it. What's interesting to me is the big structure. Also interesting to me is this fence line that comes off and it's coming at you. So the perspective is coming at you larger. I enjoy that, and I enjoy the cast shadow that it makes down on the ground. Decisions. So is anybody hoping for some big massive landscape today? Okay, so nobody's disappointed. I haven't heard anybody sneak out yet, so that's good.
Have no preconceptions.
That's good, especially when it comes to me, because you never know what you're going to get.
We were waiting for a snow skate. Oh, wait, we got it.
Yep, yes. I abandoned that about halfway here. I said, yeah, no snow for those guys. Forget about it.
Do you separate out the colors you're using before you start, or are you just choosing from the pile?
I choose from the pile.
Okay.
Yep. No rules for this girl. The less rules, the better. And, that's something plein air will teach you. If you're not a plein air painter, you will find that plein air painting teaches you to paint on the fly, so you don't have time to be sorting stuff out in that way. And I like that better because I'm not painting a scene. Yeah, you can apply a noun to it. She's painting a tree there, and that's a building. You can apply a noun to it. What I'm trying to tell you is how I felt when I saw it. So in order to make that happen, I have to make decisions going with my gut, not losing the why. So if I can figure out the why, what it is that turned me on, and keep focused on that as being the thing that I'm going to bring up and amplify and make as apparent as possible, then the rest of it will fall in line. So it has to be done a little by little, just as you go. Does that make sense?
Okay, speaking of always and never, you always, I can't tell if your support is mounted on the white, do you always paint with a light?
I work on Pastel Premier, which is a sanded paper.
Yeah, but the white they
So I always mount the Pastel Premier on a piece of foam core, or I have a board that I use an awful lot, but I didn't bring it today. I brought this instead. But yes, I always mount it up on something.
so that you have a sense of like a frame or something around it, so it looks like a painting while you're doing it?
No, so it will sit still. If you look, there's a tape that I have on the back. I hinge it so I can paint all the way to the edges. So no, it's to get it out of the ditch, so it's not sitting in all the pastel. It's to lift it up and get it removed from everything else, and it's easier to paint to me, Did that answer that?
Yes.
You used to do a lot of
beautiful birds. What,
Is that a hint?
no,
Is that a hint?
you have seem to have transitioned from birds to more architectural subjects. Can you talk a little about what inspired you to do
Well, I mean, I've been painting for 27 years professionally, right? So you guys knew me. Those guys, you guys that were here long ago, I came in this meeting kicking and screaming because I didn't want to come to a pastel meeting, but Margie made me. So, so here I am. So I think if I was painting birds then, if I was walking in here and painting birds now, you guys would know that I'm not growing and I'm not evolving as an artist. I fully expect to roll through all kinds of things, and that's what you should hope to. There's a lot of artists that will find us something and they stay with it. That's all they ever do. And that's the end of that. You know their work when you see it because there's never any kind of variation at all. You know, I mean, we can talk about some people like R.C. Gorman or whatever. There was never a surprise there. There's benefit. The thing that I have tried to do in my career here to date is what I have tried to do is whether I'm working in oil or pastel, whether I'm painting a bird, a building, or a landscape, my hope is that when you look at any of those paintings, you look at them and you go, that's a Natasha Isenhour. That's the goal. Because when you only paint one kind of thing, you're going to burn out. People are going to get bored with you, and you're going to get bored, And so my goal is that people go, I know an Eisenhower whenever I see him, That's important to me.
And your work is very distinctive.
Thank you. And that's taken a long time. 27 years is a long time.
Where do you find all the abandoned buildings?
I live in New Mexico. Who asked that? Jesus, you asked that? Yeah, I mean, this is down the road from Margie's house on Highway 1 on the way to the Bosque, But now that I do events in other places like Borrego, so all the way out that way, I'm looking for stuff, I'm looking all the time. You get a minus for that question.
Yeah, driving in Broadway today.
Right?
Not abandoned, but interesting.
If I hadn't been keeping an eye on everybody else on the road that drives worse than her, I may have noticed some cool things on Lomas when I came in. I opted, instead of coming down Central, to let my GPS decide which way to come. And so instead of Central, I took Lomas, and it was, they had just, I think they unloaded all their slag on Lomas. So, I mean, I'm grateful, but now, going home.
Boy, that light line lit up the roof that you just applied.
Yeah, keeping that why, I know I don't want it as light as the building. I want it a little bit different color than the building. So I'm working toward the general value that I want for the overall piece. So that's the goal, is working toward that. So far, so good on time, huh? don't know what it is with abandoned buildings, but there's just nothing like them.
It's just a little fixer-upper.
Yeah. You're yawning out there. See, I'm putting you to sleep. Yeah, messing with me. I see it happening. What's happening?
Trying to get a better confidence.
Nick was playing with his blood.
Yeah, I think he's messing with my head, is what I think. Yeah, I do want you guys, if you just come step up and see where it's going, and if you want to do that and then go back, that's fine too. But don't be shy about coming up and checking things out. Make sure I'm not gonna fall over everything. Be a mosh pit down here. That's coming along pretty quick, huh?
It's there.
I like these Tarages, Diane Townsend's. I like them because Usually I've used them on something big, so they have this great sort of edge left on them. And I can come through and get some.
What are you using right now?
That's a Diane Townsend Tirage.
Thank
I like these because you can hang on to them. They're square and thin. And this one now has a little ridge, kind of like a knife. So it makes a great way to get into stuff, you know.
Generally, I found a tirage to be a blunt instrument. So how do you get that edge?
Working on big paintings and working them, you know, and it just kind of grinds it. They don't all do that, but, you know, this one I just kind of I look for the tool that'll do the job. And it isn't always like the perfect supreme color for it. You know, I look for the tool that's going to do the job. That's more important than, value is more important than color. Okay, so I look for the tool in the value that's going to do the job. Love to paint the adobes because you can get away with all kinds of fun play with the color, just to pull color around, you know. So if I painted this, and somebody was asking, they'd say, "So what are you using, a pastel pencil to get those little tiny lines?" And I would say, "No, I'm using this fat, stumpy thing that looks like my finger. It's a light touch and finding an edge. That's all it is." And, you know, again, just kind of editing out and getting down to the gist of why I wanted to paint this to start with. I think those of us with science brains, particularly as you're learning and really trying to figure out what you're let me project, and really trying to figure out what your style is. When you come from science, everything is twisted down and screwed down and nailed down and specific, and use a T-square, and and it's all of this stuff. But as you begin then to find your voice, then you can afford to loosen up. So to answer Stan's question, yes, if I'm doing architecture with this, I made my lines. I used a T-square. I used it and hung it off the top just to be sure I was putting the sides of the building square. And I used a ruler to be sure I had the roof line really flat, because that was important. So those things I do use an edge for the sketch, but not for the painting. So like with these bushes back here, I'm going to use this bush that's right back here. There's not one in the reference, but I'm going, look at the building, look at the building. So I'm going to find a place that I can use that dark color and push it up against that light that I want to be sure you see. It's not there, but I'm not a slave to the reference. Don't be a slave to the reference. Everything I'm doing is only supporting that building and the way that fence feels looking off in there. Everything else, I don't care. I just want it to support that. People ask me, how do you make straight lines? How do you get those straight lines then without a ruler and on that fence? How do you do that? Watch my pinky finger. That's how. A few limbs up there to make that look believable. You know, if I was out in the field painting this, I'd be just about done. Yep, just about done. I would have probably been good at doing those, where you get furniture and you beat it up and you paint it and make it scruffy looking. Because I enjoy that process in this, you know.
Do you ever do a bad one?
So if you follow me on Facebook, did you guys that follow me on Facebook see the painting that I was doing up at the ranch while I'm teaching this 3-week intensive? I'll fool around. I did a pastel painting and I'm like, okay, this is S. You know, it's like I can't, no. And so I used it as a learning process, and I was pushing and pulling some things on it. I'm like, okay, yeah, colors, and just kind of playing. And then whenever I got done, I ripped it into 3 or 4 pieces, and I threw it over in the trash can. We went to lunch. I came back, and those goofballs had taken it out of the trash, taped it all back together on the back, and done a little doodle on it. So now I have this ripped up piece. So yeah, I do bad ones. I just don't post them.
And they're not bad. They were just something you were working on.
It was just play, you know? I mean, you got to allow yourself to do that. You got to allow yourself just to play and explore and just say, you know what, this one's not going anywhere. It's clear to me, it's made it very, very clear to me that it does not want to make it to prime time. So what can I learn from it before I just simply throw the paper away and waste it? And learn something on it. I don't do a lot that I wind up tossing, but they're one shot. I paint one shot. I don't put them off to the side for later. I paint a painting, and then I'm done with it. That's the end of that story. So I got to get them to the end.
You don't take it back to the studio and fiddle?
No, whenever I'm doing plein air, I'm a purist. It's like I'm gonna. This guy probably not. I really like where it's at. So
No, I mean if you were out.
if I'm out doing if I'm doing an event in plein air, I'm a purist and I just do it out there. And why? Because you can do 10% of it or something back in the room. I'll tell you why. Because so many of those hot shot guys are doing a little diddle, and then they go get an umbrella drink and sit out on the patio of their host house, and they paint a painting off a picture. I'm not going to be that person. I don't care how much they are that person, because I can't roll like that. Is anybody unhappy with this painting? How did I do this so quick?
Yeah, I think we'll send you back out in the snow to go home.
It's already melting.
I don't think so.
According to my watch.
Oh, you know what? Your watch is worthless. You're watching the weatherman and everything else. That lied all the way up. Aspen goes, don't worry. Aspen said, don't worry, honey. When you hit Malin, it all clears up. Okay.
True.
That was a fat lie.
It says by 4 o'clock it's going to be sunny.
Well, I better get busy. I don't have any extra paper. You guys could go on.
Listen here. They've opened the cafe.
I'm just.
They should have an Edgewood too.
No, my wife doesn't give me extra. How do you determine your prices?
The gallery decides the prices. I have long since left that up to somebody else but me. Prices, that's an interesting subject. As soon as I do this little thing, I will turn around and talk to you guys about that.
I am missing some of your words.
Hold tight, because I'm going to finish this little thing right here, and then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to answer that question.
She's going to put a price on it. You want to buy it, Susan?
So I'm just using this pastel pencil to it's a black pastel pencil. Again, value before color, right? So I am just simply using it to infer a little bit of those wires, the wires that come down and reflect out, because I like them on the ground, so I've got to put them up here in the fence.
Is the black in your window an actual black?
No, that's brown.
Yeah.
That's brown. I will only use black like a charcoal pencil or something like that. I don't ever pick up the black, but I have got some darks that are beyond dark. But I think I'm calling this one done. I like where it's at. You guys all right with that? Thank you. So the remaining time, I can talk about other stuff like prices, if you want to. Referring to pricing, a lot of friends that are getting past the taking workshop stages and they're going into putting their work in galleries and so forth, I tell them all, if you've done an art fair or something like that, had to have work up someplace, or a art walk and stuff that they do a lot here and in Santa Fe. If you have a price that's been working for you, you're not splitting it with anybody I know. But the thing to do is, if you've got a gallery that's interested in your artwork, then you talk to them and say, I need your help on pricing my work. And say, this is what the work has been selling for. When I don't have to split it with anybody or pay an overhead, I've been doing this. Now, they're not going to go, some of these places would love to lowball your work because they need some bread and butter stuff to go out the door. But you're going to be splitting that in half. So you just talk with them and let them work with you about a price. My prices are almost double in the small paintings what they were when I got into Ventana 8 years ago. But that's 8 years of reputation, busting my butt, selling lots of paintings, so it comes over time. I can tell you the biggest mistake you can make is to overprice your work at the jump, because you can't go down. You can always go up. So just raise them to sell, like my friend Skeeter Laird always told me, raise them to sell. Get them moved out into the world. Get people hooked on your work, and then as the prices go up, they do. I haven't called a price in 12, 15 years. So that's the answer to that. What other questions? Come on.
Do you always work this quickly?
Whenever I've got an hour breathing down my neck, no, that would be more. Sometimes there is so much other administrative, all this stuff. I spend 70% of my time. 80% of my time I'm doing administrative stuff, traveling to here and yon, doing an event or doing something, teaching. So 80% of my time is doing that. I've got 20% of my time left. My productivity, I'm down to half. Last year I painted 56 paintings all year. So that's all I could get to. And I was painting 90 to 110 a year. And I can't keep up with that. I'm going to get back into that. But I won't be painting 90 to 100 because I am refining what I'm doing, because the prices are dictating it. I want to grow and learn. So every painting I do, it's getting better and better. And like this time 2 years ago, if I walked in here and painted this painting, I wouldn't be near to here. I couldn't be, but it's all just practice, so that if you get under the lights and Nicholas has some camera aimed at you, after enough practice, you're able to kind of knock one out kind of quick if you want to. So that's where that's at.
What do you do about framing? You mentioned.
I frame myself still. I can't afford custom framing. No matter what my prices look like, I can't afford custom framing. So I get my frames right now still from King of Frame. Their prices are double what they were. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have gone way up. So, I'm kind of low on frames right now, trying to put what I need together to go to Borrego. And whenever I get a big paycheck, then I'm going to have to spend it all on frames. There's just not a lot of choices. And, I'd love to take them to my framer in Socorro and drop them off and say, frame them up and come back and pick them up and pay a bill. That would be great. I just don't have it. So I order from King of Frame. My framer orders glass. I pay for the glass plus the cuts plus a little retail bump for him. So I can get the glass that I need because it goes on the road with me, So that's kind of how I work out the framing. But I always, if you're going to frame them familial. So everything needs to have, don't find a deal someplace on this and that. Say this, I'm going to get this frame in black, I'm going to get this frame in gold. And if they run out of that and I got to get something else, it's going to be an equal width. It's usually a 2.5 to a 3-inch frame, because really the job of the frame is to separate the art from the wall and from the painting that's next to it. Keep it simple. KISS method on the frames. And use really good glass. I mean, you can take a mediocre frame. I consider what I have mediocre, upper mediocre, upper mediocre. Well, his quality control is really good. He's getting his frames from the same place that might sell them $20 less, but you're buying a pig and a poke from somebody else. With Randy, at least you're getting some quality control. I seldom have a frame that I have to call about. So, be consistent with your framing so that the galleries can frame them in groups. I mean, I've had work that didn't get to go on the wall because I didn't have a frame that was family with something else, and Connie won't hang it. So if you ever walk into my shows at Connie's, you'll see lots of things in gold frames over here, and the things in black frames maybe in a strip down this wall, and then another group of black frame things over here. She'll keep them consistent because she's looking at the overall look of the gallery. The gallery becomes the frame, right? So she's got to orchestrate the composition in the frame to make it look good. So if you stay consistent, they know what to expect, and you get a lot less pushback.
You frame as an oil or with a mat?
Oh, I frame it past partout. It's what Richard McKinley does. I figure if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. I've been doing it for years. What past partout is putting it right up against the glass. I use zero chemical. I don't use fixative, ever, never. So I frame it right up against the glass. I seal it up, and I have put one of those paintings sealed up in my bathroom for 9 months. It's set in there. And I pulled it all apart, and other than just the faintest of any little piece of dust here or there, dusty pastel here or there on the glass, because I needed it for something else, I used my sleeve and went, and there was just hardly anything there, and popped it on another painting.
What about the backing board?
The backer I use acid-free foam core, and so I sandwich the glass and the foam core with the pastel in the middle and get it sealed up all the way around, put it in the frame, and then I put another piece of that tape that I used to seal it around to like lock down the channel laid right, tape. I'll use another piece of tape to lock that all the way around, and then I put another piece of foam core, whatever foam core, on the back of that, so it's pinned in with that. So the package is all archival and good to go. Come on, hit me. Now's your time. That it?
And then how do you seal it back?
That is sealed.
That is sealed.
No, I mean, if you put paper, you don't put paper over.
I don't bother with that because I used to put a dust cover on the back of stuff and make it all pretty, and they're going to punch a hole in it the first time they hang it on the wall in the gallery, as careful as they are. And it's like I just make it look clean, and I write the name of the piece, 8x16 pastel, copyright Natasha Isenhour, and then I sign. So there's a signature on the back. But I print it out nice and fat markers so it's real evident. So it's purposeful, right? And I like to use the sticker for the glass that says what the glass is.
The true view.
The true view. Yeah. I like to do that.
Do you sign the front of your paintings?
I do. All my paintings for the last 20 years anyway, I have signed them up the side. And now I get to sign them with PSA after my last name. I only put my last name. I moved from using, I had copyright symbol, Natasha Isenhour, 1997. It's this long. Whoop. And I dropped, I learned how the glass ceiling is for women in art. It just is that way. It ain't about nothing other than there are still collectors out there that feel like the women are just painting when they're not cooking for their husband or ironing clothes. I don't know where they live, but that's fact. I had people come into the gallery when Margie and I had the gallery in Socorro and said, "Oh, you did this? You paint like a man." I thought, wow, that's weird. Well, but see, in the end, what they saw was confidence. Is that, I push color and I paint kind of in your face sort of subjects and stuff, and I think that in their little mushy brain, that's what it translated as. So I decided I would take it as a compliment, and I also factored that in whenever I dropped Natasha off. Connie said, never date a painting. Do not date a painting. Put it in your archives, date it if you want to, but don't date a painting. So I never date a painting. And so the date came off, the Natasha came off, and then I used N Eisenhower, and then I dropped the N, and Eisenhower is now all in caps for the last 5 years, I guess. That's what I've settled on, and that's what I own. So, just gotta make good decisions. You can't believe how many students I have. I have to beat out of these women not to put Dee or BG, or it's like, no, own your work, or Betty. No, own your work. You need to own your work. You need to feel, this is a piece of your soul that you're putting out there. I don't care how little you've painted so far or how many paintings you've got to date. You're painting your story. This is what's left of your story whenever you croak. So you better own it, and you better love it enough and appreciate it enough, A, to sign it with a proper name and keep it that way, and to B, present it in its very best light. C, if it's not your best painting, leave it at home. Don't say, well, I've got this one and this one, I'll enter it, I've got these couple left. If it's not your best work, don't put it in the show. My parting advice. Yeah.
Just in case people didn't notice, your signature is beautiful, and it's inside from the because there's a rabbit on the frame.
Yeah, I usually, what did I tell students last, Lindy? What, within a half an inch of the side and bottom? Stay within that so that no matter what happens, if it's matted or, because far as you know, you go through all this trouble to put really great glass and a passepartout frame on, and you've bought a really nice frame for it, and you frame it up and you give it to them. They're like, I cannot wait to get this home and get it out of this frame. And then it's sitting on the sidewalk for, 25 cents in a yard sale. So this is what I'm saying. You got to dress it up to look nice. Don't worry about what they're going to do with the painting. Just don't overframe, because people want to put on it what they want to put on it. Don't overframe. It's ridiculous. And I love my custom framer, but they're there for the bankers who collect these things they buy on auction or whatever. They're there for the guys that have a bunch of money to come over and dress up stuff that they get. They're not there. I'm having a hard time finding anybody in the framing business that actually does things in a way that I could afford to frame between 50 and 110 paintings a year. I'd be broke. That'd be all I could spend my money on. Yeah. So always say that came from where, but always stay within that magic area there, just so it doesn't get swallowed up. And that's another thing of really, like owning who you are as per your painting and putting that name on there where it's seen. It doesn't need to be big. This vanishes. I had one bunch of docents from a museum come through the Borrego Invitational one year, and I heard the one guy say, that signature is so distracting at the side. And I'm like, you take what you need and leave the rest. That's what I say. Awesome. Yeah.
Clarifying question here. I'm trying to understand what you said a little while ago around the framing. You put tape around something that included the foam core, and then you added another foam core?
I package glass, artwork, foam core. That becomes one package with acid-free tape, acid-free foam core, no fixative. And I make a one unit that's easy to get in and out of. The other bonus of that is that if a gallery goes, the sale was pending on this being in a gold frame versus black, and we've got to switch them, So, there's a lot of reasons you would do that. But if you package that up like that, and then once it's packaged up and you pop it in the frame, then put another piece of any foam core on the back of that, because that gives it a little extra rigidity and cushion. People go, what if it gets broken? Well, I've had a 24 by 36 inch glass get broken that Ventana shipped carefully, and it got broken, and when it got where it went to the framer, they were able to put it back together, and no damage to the painting. I've had a painting come back from New York from a show, and it was broken all to pieces. But the benefit of framing or putting the glass right against the artwork is the glass doesn't drop down between the artwork and the glass and ride around for 2,000 miles till it gets to you and wreck the whole painting. And all I had to do in the sky was just a little bit of this, and that was it. So I'm a big fan. Yeah.
About fiction.
Never.
None?
Nowhere along the way and not at the end. That's why I like the pastel premieres. It really holds a lot of layers. I'm not one to change my mind so many times that at the end it's gunky and sticky on the top because I keep trying to push more color on there. I don't go there. So, if I did, that would probably change how I made a decision to do that. Because if you do really gunky pastels, I'm not criticizing the method or the technique, but if you do a gunky kind of pastel and you put that against the glass, what happens is that compression is higher in those areas where you've got that ultra thick, ridiculous amount of pastel. It's not gum arabic, but whatever it is that they use now to hold them together, the binder, it will cause some of that to stick to the glass. That's when you have it stick to the glass, not like this. Yeah?
Great.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, you guys. It was like really crappy out there, so I'm impressed. Thank you.